Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS Inform. We're going to talk about an event coming up August 27th and why you need to be concerned. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill Potter, your host, and joining me in the studio is Jenna Bieker, and Jenna is the Substance Abuse Council Coordinator.
Right.
And also joining us is Jenny Lampert, and Jenny is the DuBois County Chief Probation Officer.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Well, ladies, what's the event that's coming up August 27th?
Awesome, thanks for asking. So the Substance Abuse Council is having our third annual Overdose Awareness Candlelight Vigil. And you're correct, that's on the 27th. It's at the 18th Street Park in Ferdinand, and that is from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, we want to point out, this seems like you're rotating. You started out in Jasper one time. Last year it was at Honeyburg Market Street, and now you're at 18th Street Park in Ferdinand, so you're hitting all the communities.
Absolutely, because overdose and addiction is not something that happens in one area, right? We want to start this conversation all over the county and let the whole county know that they're supported.
And maybe we ought to go back a little bit. What is the Substance Abuse Council, if people don't know that it even exists?
Sure, so the Substance Abuse Council is a group of community members. Our primary role is to grant out money for entities working against substance misuse, and we get our funds through any substance abuse related conviction in DuBois County. Part of the court fees goes to our group. And that is actually an initiative that was put into place by an Indiana governor, I think in the 80s or 90s. So it's been around for a little while. We're considered a local coordinating council. So beyond our grant duties, we're trying to have some community events and create some awareness and work towards substance misuse as a group as well.
So this event coming up August 27th is for who?
Anyone.
Okay.
People who have loved ones struggling with addiction, people who have lost people to overdose. And if you're struggling with addiction yourself, you can come too. We have resources available for you.
And I'm going to ask this probably twice. With COVID-19, what sort of precautions? So people that are going, I'm worried about that, what are your precautions?
Absolutely. So we had a lot of conversations about whether this would be an in-person or a live, like a Facebook Live event. Mm-hmm. And we decided to go with it being in person. A couple things that we're doing to kind of combat COVID-19 concerns. We have an outside venue, so we're able to do 6 feet social distancing. On top of that, we've already purchased masks and hand sanitizer from Jasper Industrial Supply. So we will have 100 surgical blue masks to hand out, as well as hand sanitizer. And we've changed a lot of the things we typically do at the event, so less people are touching less things.
If someone comes to the event, what's going to happen? What are they going to see? Are they signing up for something? Are they all standing around listening to somebody? What happens?
There's actually a lot of things that we're doing at this event. So first and foremost, the speakers you talked about. We have Safe Haven from Paoli coming, and they do a lot of work towards helping with those who are struggling with addiction. They'll take you to get rehabilitation. They will help you find a job. They'll help you find food. Like, they really are a one-stop shop, and they're doing awesome work. So I'm really excited to kind of bridge that Orange County, DuBois County gap, because they're willing to help whoever. As well as Haley Anderson. She told me that I could share her name. She actually works with AA, so she's coming to speak about her personal experience, as well as how she thinks that she can, help people deal with their addiction as well. So
there will be speakers, and you'll
will.
learn that way. And in a way, you're also kind of doing some networking, maybe meeting some people who are struggling or who have struggled like you, and sometimes that's the support that you need.
Absolutely. And back to your COVID question, we typically have had people have individual candles to light to have the Candlelit Vigil. Mm-hmm. We have one symbolic candle this year. Like I said, less people touching things. Mm-hmm. And that's been donated by Green Thumb. So we're really thankful for that, to be able to have that symbolic Candlelit Vigil, but have less people touching all of the same things.
This is on the 27th at 18th Street Park in Ferdinand. Mm-hmm. What time does it start?
7 p.m., and that's Eastern Standard Time.
Now, Jenny, for you, you're the Chief Probation Officer for DuBois County. Is there really a drug problem?
There absolutely is. It's not just opiates. Obviously, we still have meth going on. We have alcohol issues going on, and we have marijuana issues going on. So there's several things in the community. This specifically addresses opioid misuse and abuse, and that's because it's a national event that's held every year, and this is our local national event taking part. And I think we're one of only 2 places having the national event this year, I believe, because of COVID, at least in the state of Indiana that I know of.
The closest place that I'm aware of is Louisville. But as far as Southern Indiana, I think we're really the only place regionally that's hosting this event.
You mentioned opioids, opioids, whatever, a lot of different.
Yeah.
You're talking pain medic, basically a pain pill you're going to get because you've had surgery or something, right?
Yes, historically, that's how this problem has started. Prescription over prescribing, I guess, is an accurate way to describe that. You know, you or I can go in and have a surgery and have an issue with pain, and of course, we want it to treat pain and make you comfortable. I don't think that there was a realization that how that would grow into the problem that it did today. The way opioids are prescription pain pills like Lortabs, excuse me, Oxycontin, those things, you're almost set up to fail from the beginning when you take those, because chemically your body develops a tolerance to that very quickly. So say the first 2 days you take one pill and that relieves your pain. By that third day, you're going to need 2 pills to get that same result. So you're set up in this cycle that's very difficult, and people become addicted very quickly to these medications.
But they move from that to maybe a legend drug like heroin.
I wouldn't necessarily say. So what happens then? So their prescription runs out, or they can't get any more from their doctor. If they go to buy those pills on the street, they're very expensive. And so heroin has come to fruition by being a lot cheaper to use. And so people who can't afford it, then they switch to the heroin. But it's very addictive and it's deadly also.
It amazes me how in our news almost every night it seems like there is some sort of arrest for drug use or drug possession. And I'm sure as the probation office, that's a concern to you.
Right. The court that I typically deal in, Superior Court, is the substance misuse court, and we have a very high caseload of drug offenders.
Now, you recently got a grant that you're going to share some information on.
Right. So the State Department of Health, Indiana State Department of Health, has what's called a first responder grant. So the interesting thing with that is any first responders in the area, which would include like your local fire departments that have first responders, police agencies, schools even, and I know some of our local schools have applied for this also, as well as our community corrections and our probation. We can get what is called this Narcan, naloxone is another name for it. But what these are is something that you can administer to someone who has had an overdose from an opioid, whether that would be prescription or heroin.
Either one of those?
Either one, any type of opioid.
Okay, and you're going to be handing some of those out?
We did. We got a grant for 30 of these. I have 21 in hand right now. I'm hoping to have the other 9 for the event. They're handed out completely anonymous. It will come with this postcard that's completely anonymous. We're asking, so IUPUI is doing a study on this. Kind of goes along with the grant. So if you do use it, you just take this off, answer the questions, mail it in, completely anonymous. So no one has to know who's getting these. No one has to know who is using these. We do ask, anytime you administer one of these, and I think some people will be familiar with that, you do need to get that person checked out, though. Please call the hospital. Please get them to the hospital. Because even when you administer one of these, depending on what they have ingested, we all know that some of the heroin these days is mixed with fentanyl, which is very deadly. Even just a small little gram of that, a small little sand, as big as a little kernel of sand, I guess you would call it, can be deadly. So you may administer this, it may revive them, bring them back, but they may need another dose in a little bit, or they may need 2 or 3 doses, or they may need further medical attention. So it doesn't always mean that this will save this life, but it will give them a fighting chance.
And so you're hoping to have 30 of these to hand out.
I am.
And because be aware that not all police departments or officers are going to have this with them, so
Right.
you may want to have it. So who should be picking these up? Somebody who has a drug problem?
Anybody can have these. So if you have a family member that you're worried about that you think has an opioid problem, take one of these with you. Have it on hand just in case. If you ever find them, you say you come home and your child, you can't wake them up for some reason, you can administer this without harming them. So even if it's not an opioid problem that they're having, you can administer this. It's same as like epinephrine or EpiPens. If you give that to somebody who's not having an allergic reaction, you're not causing them any harm. This is very similar to along those lines is the best way to explain it. So you can't hurt somebody by giving this to them.
Okay. And you're not like taking names and keeping track of this. You're just handing them out for the safety of others in the future.
Right, completely anonymous, the same as this event that night. I know in the past, this is our 3rd event. We've had some people worry that they didn't want to come because they don't want other people to see them there. But you're going to be surprised who attends these events, and it's all completely anonymous, similar to AA and NA. Nobody's taking names. Nobody's putting your picture in the paper unless you want it in the paper. We've had that in the past, but completely anonymous. So please feel free to come. You can stand back if you need to. We're at the park. So there'll be a very open area. We have people that stay back. We have people that come forward. You can share your story. You can talk about your loved one. You can talk about how this has affected your life. So it's very informal, and it's a great event. It really is.
And again, it's called the what Candlelight Vigil?
Overdose Awareness Candlelit Vigil. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Now, are there a lot of people overdosing that often around here? I mean, that's kind of scary for me to think about that.
So I know last year, like around this time, I think we had 6 or 7 in a very short span, and I think that's because that heroin that we had gotten in this area at that point was laced with something. This year I don't have any specific numbers. I do have Indiana numbers for 2018, and that's the last published ones. There was 1,104 drug overdose deaths that involved opioids in 2018. That was for Indiana, the state of Indiana.
And we don't really, the whole idea is not to have any.
Right.
And sometimes it's just getting together at this Candlelight Vigil to talk to someone, or maybe you yourself getting up and saying something that will change somebody else's life. And as you mentioned, it's all anonymous. It is not judgmental in any way. You just show up.
Right. Absolutely. And I know that we talked about the concerns with COVID-19 in this event, but some of the data we're seeing of use, whether that be people that we have on our programming in the criminal justice system here, use has really gone up. And I mean, if you think about it, pandemic and use go hand in hand. I mean, we have a lot of people with financial struggles. We have people who are home that are experiencing boredom, isolation, loneliness. A lot of the things that we really tried to put in place to prevent substance use have been barriers because of COVID-19. So I really think that this is a timely event for that reason specifically.
Okay, and again, time, place, the who, what, when, where, why.
So August 27th, it's a Thursday night, and like Jenny had mentioned, there is an International Overdose Awareness Day that falls on the 31st, and that's celebrated globally. Our event is that Thursday night before, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's at the 18th Street Park in Ferdinand. It's the top shelter house, which can be a little tricky to find, but we have got signs being made by 2 sign guys to help kind of navigate people up to that area. So,
anything else you two would like to add?
We also have several people that donate their time to this, not only substance abuse council members, community correction, probation. We have several, like Nancy from the chamber helps out with it. We have Heather from Memorial Hospital. Like we talked about, several community members. Debbie Sheeter has been with us from the start. She donates her time to sing and provide music at this event. Green Thumb every year makes a large candle for us to use, which is awesome. Anybody else you can think of?
Yeah, the town of Ferdinand donated the use of the shelter house this year. So we're definitely thankful for that, because the cheaper that we can make this event and get donations, the more we can do to put that money towards other efforts to combat substance misuse. I have several other things to add, actually. Sure. So I told you about the speakers. There's also a poem reading that we will do as well. And then Jenny had alluded to the ending of the event, I think, is probably one of the most moving parts, where anybody in the audience can come up and share their experience. It's definitely a somber event, but I think it starts a really important conversation. And for a lot of us that are fortunate not to struggle with addiction in that way, it's a really great perspective to understand directly from someone who's experienced that. We also this year are really trying to serve the Latinx community. I have to give a shout out to Rosina Sandoval. She has been a godsend in translating materials for me. She is also coming to the event to translate the speakers live, right? So we had the flyer translated to Spanish and invited the Latinx community. Well, we'd like to continue that support to have the event be accessible for them and the speakers as well. And she runs a Latinx Du Bois County Facebook page that if people haven't checked out, they definitely should. She does a great job of kind of bridging the language barrier gap. Another thing that I wanted to add is that we are not providing chairs or blankets, and like Jenny had said, it's a hillside. So please bring a chair or blanket if you want to come. That would be a great way for you to be able to kind of navigate your own 6 feet social distancing, because you can set that where you want. And we have the whole hillside for that too. So I'm really excited. There's a lot of great new things that we're adding, a lot of things that we've already done really well that we're tweaking to make them COVID friendly. And we hope to see the event continue to grow.
All right, excellent. Coming up August 27th, and that is a Thursday night.
That is a Thursday
7
night.
8. And we've had in the studio with us Jenna Bieker, also Jenny Lampert has been with us. Thank you, ladies, for coming in. Appreciate it, and good luck with your event.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for watching 18 WJTS. We are local people watching local people.